Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Preimesberger, editor of eWEEK. Thank you very much for joining us today for this latest version of eWEEK eSpeaks. It's one of a series of IT conversations that we have with thought leaders all through the business. Our interviewee today is Ray Kruck of Tugboat Logic in Burlingame, California. Ray, welcome.
Thanks very much, Chris, for having me.
And it's a pleasure to meet you and hear about your company. And Tugboat Logic, great name. How did you come up with that, real briefly?
Yeah, just wanted to kind of have a symbol of a company that the tugboat's a kind of hardworking boat that helps others get to safe harbor. So we see ourselves in the same place, helping companies get to better security posture.
Safe harbor. I love that idea. That's great. Tell me at a high level what the company does. I know it's involved with InfoSec.
Right. So we are a company that helps small to medium-sized enterprise customers get the knowledge and guidance and data they need to build an information security program and get compliant and then transact with their customers more effectively.
That sounds so simple. It can't be that simple.
Right. Well, we set out to basically automate what was done in a manual process before by either an auditor or your security team, and we sought to bring best practices together in a unique SaaS solution and deliver it by a SaaS solution, make the guidance and make the mappings to how to get more compliant much more easy and easy to follow, so customers can empower themselves.
Yeah. So it's strictly a SaaS solution. It's not a software that you can load onto a server and keep in a private cloud, or not?
Right. It's basically a SaaS solution that we run on a secured public network. But essentially, we don't really gather a lot of sensitive data on behalf of our customers, and we're also not a bump in the wire. So nothing about our solution stops a threat or prevents anything bad from happening. We're really there to provide the customer the roadmap to build a compliance program and get themselves more secure as a result.
All right. How long has the company been around? You've been with a couple of companies.
Right. This is my third startup. And yeah, the company's been around since late 2017.
Okay. And you are focusing pretty closely on the mid-range, small to medium-sized business market. Is that right?
Right. So we're really focused on where the biggest need is. And there's a large skills gap in the InfoSec market for people who know how to build security programs. So we're trying to fit that need, which is more the small to mid-sized companies up to and including maybe a couple of thousand employees or smaller companies that need kind of the expertise brought in and it's sort of a DIY type tool.
Mm-hmm. So I assume then that the software is pretty intuitive to use for a line of business person, or what?
Yeah, we think so. Our tool is really designed for either, let's say, an IT-centric person. So it wouldn't be necessarily a line of business per se, but it would be certainly someone who has some IT experience. So our typical user is a DevOps or a security engineer or just a developer or maybe a VP of engineering or VP of product management.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about how it works.
Yeah, so simply put, what we try to do is do a combination of sort of pre-built guidance and templates that help customers kind of start their information security journey. So we templatize policies and map them to controls. Also templatize, we ship the product with over 50 IT policies and over 400 IT controls that are mapped to that. So you kind of have a place to start right away as soon as you buy the solution. So we want time to value to be very short. And then once you start implementing those or customizing those policies and controls, we map them straight to the more popular and well-known and well-defined security certification frameworks, such as SOC 2, which is a auditable security standard, or ISO 27001, or PCI, or HIPAA. Those are kind of our top four security frameworks, and you can add more if you wanted to. But we allow customers to kind of right-size their security program, customize down our templatized content, and get on their way to getting a SOC 2 or ISO attestation and security attestation. Once they get that, they can then further leverage our platform to go share their security posture with their customers to go sell more effectively, or respond or respond to RFPs or security questionnaires they may get from their customers. So it's really that proof of compliance that's kind of our enduring value, really in the longer run, where we provide security assurance for the customer, for the reader of the reports that we generate out of our system, because all of our data that's put in by our customers can be verified by, for example, evidence that they've implemented these controls. So we help customers implement the audit-ready evidence that they've actually implemented these security programs and controls for their company.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how your background has led you to this very specialized security service.
I learned through my own experience. I was the chief revenue officer and co-founder of my last company, and I found it pretty easy to go sell to a line of business owner my last product, but the big hurdle to overcome was getting through the InfoSec and compliance review at a large organization or a large regulated company. And I'm sure many of the people watching this and many other startups that we sell to and early stage emerging growth companies all face this challenge of trying to get themselves to be trusted, essentially, and mitigate the risk borne by them by virtue of selling their applications into a larger enterprise network environment. So we really, I just learned by trial by fire. I learned everything I built into the product now, and my team is building in the product. A lot of it was informed by my previous startup.
Yeah, those regulation reviews must turn a lot of people's faces white when they have to come to them. And it sounds like your solution can really get rid of those headaches, like taking a good aspirin.
Yeah, I mean, it's intimidating, right? These information security documents, they're called SIGs or SIG-Lite security review docs. They can have as many as 800 or 900 questions in a multi-tab spreadsheet.
Wow.
And it's almost designed to be intimidating, right? Because what's happening is the large enterprise is trying to mitigate or push the risk down onto their vendor ecosystem and have the vendor assume all that. So here you are, a fantastic little startup. You've got a great emerging piece of technology. You want to go sell it to a big bank or a big Fortune 500 company, and you're going to face all this headwind around, well, if we bring your application in or allow you access to our customer data, you now have all these inevitable questions around data risk and data breaches and security of data and how it gets handled. And then you have the context of privacy on top of it. If it's consumer data you're gathering as a third-party vendor, that's even a higher degree of standard of care that you as the vendor and supplier have to take care of. So it's all about pushing risk down on the small guy, and we're trying to help companies deal with that risk and deal with that complexity.
Yeah, and those regulations have multiplied over the last couple of years too. So your company has to keep up with all of these things and bring them to the fore for each of your customers. Do you find that a lot of your customers here in the first 3 years of your company's existence, do they already have a solution in place for this, or not? Are you coming in and really solving a huge problem all at once?
That's a great question. I would say it's a bit of a mix. Most often, customers don't have anything really in place. They may have a privacy statement for their website. They may have a few basic things in place, but nothing really structured or formalized, and they don't really know how to formalize it. So what you're seeing is that many customers that we see are working backwards from the compliance requirement and saying, well, my customers, they start to hear it over and over again. My customers want me to get this thing called a SOC 2 standard certification or ISO certification. How about I just build a security program around that standard and back into my security program by virtue of what I'm required from a compliance point of view. So we're seeing that most often, and that's really the driver to get them to build their program. But we are selling into more mature customers who need to do who have a secondary challenge. They may already have the policies and controls or the basic program, the ISMS in place, but they're having a real challenge around integrating the audit-ready data, the evidence that proves the controls, IT controls are actually in place. They need to automate that whole process in the DevOps environment. And so the automation into DevOps is the big frontier or the big challenge for medium-sized companies and even in the slightly larger ones. And there we're seeing a lot of demand and a lot of need for our solution to be able to have audit-ready evidence pulled in from the common cloud platforms, common third-party applications, especially in the area of onboarding, offboarding, and identity access control. Those are common areas where auditors want to go see that the company has implemented strong controls and can prove those controls. So we're developing not only just evidence gathering ability, but even more advanced kind of capability and visibility into what a company looks like from a DevOps and a development environment point of view, where compliance requires us to show that they've kind of taken the steps to include in their software development lifecycle or software development process the ability to prove compliance at that level.
Does Tugboat have the reporting ability to print out a statement or a report if an auditor comes in, surprises you sometime, or what?
We do. We do have something called a security assurance report, as well as InfoSec policy documents that allow you to export what your program looks like and what your company's security and compliance posture is. So that's something we've definitely automated through what we call our security assurance portal. But more importantly, we've taken steps that when an auditor comes in, we've given auditors, typically chartered accounting firms that enforce the SOC 2 standard, for example, or ISO auditors and assessors who enforce the ISO 27001 standard. We have actually provision in the software itself in our platform that allows an auditor to come in and not only view evidence, but also upload evidence request lists and automate the entire process and automate the audit process to be able to make it easier and faster for a company to comply and sustain compliance with these certification frameworks.
Right. We got about a minute left, Ray. And my question to you is, what trend are you identifying in your field right now? At eWEEK, we're seeing everything is being automated. Everything seems like. But beyond that, what trend are you seeing?
Yeah, I think we're seeing that a lot of customers are still looking for, a lot of enterprises are still looking for pragmatic solutions to problems. I don't think there's a tool for every single problem out there. So a lot of customers are trying to say, well, rather than me, expanding my whole footprint around my IT infrastructure, how do I start looking at the problem around, data risk or risk from collecting data the other way around? So in other words, how do I minimize the footprint of sensitive data I'm collecting? How do I comply with these regulations with a much smaller, slimmed down, pragmatic view of how I collect data, why I process it, et cetera? So we're finding clients need a lot of help in figuring those pieces out, which I think is a good, healthy way to look at security. Is how do I, rely upon best practices inside my organization to mitigate my risks of data loss or data breach.
Yeah, great thoughts there. Ray, thank you very much. Ray Kruck, CEO, and are you the founder or co-founder?
Also the founder of the company, yes.
Founder of the company, Tugboat Logic. And wow, you're in a great lane. Good luck to you going forward.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you
for
having me.
And for everybody following along to the end here, thank you very much for listening to this segment of eSpeaks, and have a great rest of your eWEEK. Thanks for joining us on eWEEK eSpeaks. Go to eWEEK.com to hear more conversations with IT thought leaders.